pre-post studies or open label trials. They do mention them, but in the exclusion list. They will give studies. They will give a list where studies have been excluded, and they mention that this study is not strictly a randomized controlled trial. But you would see that that other organizations such as NICE and such as US Task Force, so the US Task Force, they recently published one of their recommendation document on JAMA psychiatry, and it was on prevention of postpartum depression, and they had listed pre-post and quasi RCTs there as well, and used them in their evidence. The thing here is that Cochrane and WHO, they have their own criteria for judging evidence quality. So they call it the grade evidence profiling method. And this US Task Force, they have their own criteria for rating the grade of evidence. So both the criteria are pretty different. You would see that's why you would see sometimes a difference in recommendations given by NICE, given by Cochrane, or given by the US Task Force. All of them pretty much use different frameworks. But as I mentioned, even if you add in quasi-experimental studies with pre-post study designs, if you can, number one, give some sort of justification for it, and in the end also split the evidence by doing a subgroup analysis, you should be okay. Because this is what we are doing with WHO now. We had evidence from quasi-RCTs as well as RCTs. And they told us that if we split the evidence and they see that the effect size in non-RCTs is similar to the effect size in RCTs, and both of them give similar show similar effectiveness, then they are not going to downgrade the evidence. So these are some advanced topics, and we can discuss about them later on when we do the systematic reviews, because we will use grade framework for giving recommendations as well. So we'll talk about it in detail afterwards.
Thank you.
So I'll just share my screen now and take you to our experiences while developing search strategies. So I can see that we only have 15 minutes left. And Dr. Syam, should I just take them through these Excel files, and because we only have 15 minutes left, and then we can do the PubMed demonstration tomorrow, and then note demonstration as well. Or should we continue?
No, I think we can. Whatever you suggest.
Because the PubMed demonstration, and then PubMed demonstration by myself, and then the fellows, they will demonstrate as they will practice as well. So I think we should take it to tomorrow, and just use this 15 minutes to show them the Excel files that we develop.
Sure, bilkul. I'd agree. And yes, so over to you. Do that in 15 minutes. Let's call it a day. I will not be able to join in tomorrow. My apologies. There's a side training going on that I have a couple of sessions in the field today. Even I got a little delayed. So I'll excuse myself from tomorrow and potentially from day after tomorrow's sessions, but I will follow up on emails. And so please do feedback. This is the fellows should feedback what experience was like. How can we improve this? Face-to-face versus online is always a big challenge. And so, for example, one thing that we learned today was that Teams does not have the capacity to create meeting rooms. So next group activity related should be done on Zoom. So that's a big feedback. So any other feedback to enhance your experience and your learning should be shared with us. Over to you, Ahmed.
Can everyone see my my Excel sheet?
Not yet.
Not as yet.
Your
Streams.
I'm not sure what is. So when I start sharing the window, I cannot see the Excel file in the options below. I'm not sure what the problem is.
You can share the desktop and then display your Excel sheet.
So is it visible now? The Excel
Yes, now.
Okay. So I just wanted to take you through the Excel files that we
I think we have lost Ahmed.
looks like it.
Looks like it. Ahmed, can you hear us?
Ahmed is not on the call now.
sorry, the Teams just logged off. I'm not sure why.
No worries. Glad to have you back.
Yes. So is my Excel file visible?
Yes.
So I'll just take you through, you know, how we go about the process of developing a search strategy, and then look at its suitability, and then you know, tailor it according to our resources and the time that we have. So firstly, you would see that I have also divided the search strategy into concepts: condition, type of study, interventions, outcomes. And then what I do is, you would see here that I always limit my keywords to titles and abstracts. So this TI/AB, it represents titles and abstracts. And then I have this mesh term as well. So by making this combination, I make sure that that the articles that are listed under mesh are also included, and I also have this articles that mention perinatal depression in the title and abstract. So a lot of authors, what they do is they include some terms in by searching them into the full text. So what we think is that, you know, if we search for a particular term in the whole text, then there would be a lot of irrelevant articles. For instance, the article might not be on perinatal depression. It may be on paternal depression, but they just mention that, you know, in their discussion section, that perinatal depressions are good enough. So we just mostly restrict them to title and abstract and use the mesh terms. Type of study. So in this study, we were actually looking at so in this study, we were actually looking at effectiveness as well as implementation implementation of those interventions in the field. So we included a lot of keywords such as effectiveness, clinical trial, randomized clinical, implementation, evaluation, sustainability, appropriateness, program development, acceptability. So we have all of those listed. Then in interventions, we have, so the paper was about psychological and psychosocial interventions. So we have a lot of these listed here. But you would see that, you know, for this particular concept, I don't mention TIAB. I searched it in full text. The reason being that I just wanted to avoid losing any important article that mentions any of these interventions. For example, they may in their title and abstract, they don't really mention that this is a cognitive behavioral therapy. They may mention it is Thinking Healthy program. But once you take it to the discussion section or the method section, they would have mentioned that it's a CBT based Thinking Healthy program. And then we had a range of outcomes. Again, the outcomes I checked in. I did not really limit it to title and abstract. I searched them in the full text of the articles. The reason being that most of the these psychological and psychosocial interventions, they are focused on some sort of mental disorder like anxiety, depression. But we were also interested in a lot of other outcomes, such as maternal mortality, anemia, back pain, breast complications. So these sort of outcomes, they are mostly secondary outcomes in studies. So we decided that we'll just look at the full text, because mostly studies do not really mention secondary outcomes in the titles or their abstracts. So we went for the full text here. And then we searched these concepts one by one. So in PubMed, condition population, it gave us these many results. Type of study gave us these many results. And we keep a record of this for every database we search, because in the end, we keep it in the form of an Excel file, because the reviewers, sometimes they may ask you to send them this search process so they can evaluate if the search process has been conducted correctly. And then in the second sheet, I also maintain the number of results. So PubMed has these many, Web of Science, these many. Then I mentioned the total 2759 results. And then after duplicate removal. So because a lot of these databases are overlapping, so we use EndNote for that I will demonstrate tomorrow. We use EndNote for removing the duplicate references by matching them according to the titles, authors, publication years, etc. So this is one way, but this does not really show the complexity of this process, right? So I'll just take you to another of my systematic review file. So can you see this new file? It's called search strategy dash supplementary file 2. Can you see it?
No.
Let me please share it again. Yes, you should be able to see it now.
I have one quick question, Ahmed.
Yes.
Just the point of confusion. I was surprised that Cochrane had, when you showed all the various types of articles that were included and by the different search protocols, I was surprised that PubMed did not pick up the Cochrane articles. I mean, there seem to be a lot of articles that were picked up in Cochrane and not in PubMed. Is that normal, or is that unusual?
That is normal, because Cochrane, when you go to search in Cochrane, then Cochrane database is not a single database. It actually has its own, number one, its own repository where indexers, they flag randomized controlled trials and they include them index them in the Cochrane database. But the Cochrane database also searches in many other databases. So it has access to PubMed, it has access to CINAHL, it has access to Embase, and it has access to CT Clinical Trial Registry, ct.gov as well. So if you search in Cochrane, you're actually searching in 4 or 5 extra databases. So that is the reason that you would find a lot of randomized controlled trials in Cochrane that are not present in PubMed. So this is another of our paper. So this was on the relaxation training one. So the preliminary research strategy that we made was, population was this. We did not include at-risk or vulnerability terms. Interventions. These are the interventions: relaxation, breathing, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, imagery, that were found in the key papers, in the key systematic reviews that have been previously published. But when we went on to PubMed, we saw that there were a lot other techniques that had been used. So we broadened our criteria for intervention here. Mental health outcomes stayed the same. Study type then was the region, low and middle income countries. Then we were thinking about if we should add prevention keywords or not. So we took upon, we went to a lot of databases and we did preliminary searches. So this is a preliminary search on Web of Science. So we saw that the total articles we got were 3,374. We said, okay, so this number is okay for Web of Science. And if we exclude intervention terms, that we got 17,996 hits. So this is how we keep on tweaking the search strategy just to get the number of articles that are within our reach, that we can do with the resources that we have, and also that stay systematic, reproducible, and scientifically acceptable as well. So you have to find a balance. Then we keep a subsheet for suggestions. Okay, let us add these terms, add prevention terms for systematic review, search these databases, and then we divide them into stages. So this was first iteration. We got 8729 articles. Then in the second iteration, we added study types and we got 5235 articles. So we keep on experimenting like this. And you would see here that our search strategy evolved from the first one. We only have 4 or 5 interventions. And in the end, we had included around 15 or 16 interventions that were used for relaxation purposes. Then we also use this Gantt chart to keep a timeline of our project. And then I'll just take you to another file that we have been. So can you see this next file? It's refined search strategy 5. Let me share it again. Yes, can you see it now?
Yes, Ahmed.
Yeah, so it's a very iterative process. We keep on doing revisions to come up with something that is scientifically acceptable, but also has the number of papers that we can handle, the number of papers to screen that we can handle. So in this iteration, we saw that adding in risk, at risk, high risk, prone, susceptible, these terms were added in, but adding in terms like under-resourced, low-resourced, liable, they did not really make any significant change to the number of results. Then in the next iterative process, we skimmed through first 20 results and saw some more synonyms or keywords to put in. Then we saw here that in the next iteration, that if we add in laughing therapy or food therapy to the search strategy that we had made previously, it does not really make any difference. We get 0 results for them. So this is the iterative process that we run, and we do it for all the databases that we include: PubMed, Cochrane Central, PsycInfo, Virtual Health Library, Scopus, Web of Science, and we keep a track of the results. And we also keep a track of by noting that what were the restrictions that we used. So for example, for Virtual Health Library, we only searched titles and abstracts and keywords, because the number of results that we were getting for full text was around 6,000. So when we restricted it to titles and abstracts and keywords, it reduced it to 1,027. Similar for Scopus. Scopus alone was giving us around 20,000 titles and abstracts. So we restricted it to titles, abstracts, and keywords, and it gave us 4,614 articles to work on. And then we give a breakdown of all of the databases. And in the end, we got around 22,127 titles to screen. But we kept it this high because we had around 8 team members who were doing the screening process. If we had fewer team members, like 2 or 3, we would have used more strategies to bring this 22,000 to 5,000, 6,000. And you can do it by restricting several terms to titles only, by restricting them to by not restricting them to full text or title abstract keywords. So adding in those sorts of restrictions. Then we also sometimes see that, what kind of keyword is bringing about more irrelevant articles. So we delete that article, search term from our search strategy. And if that does not work, then we add in not terms. So in not terms, if we see that there is a trend, for example, a lot of articles mention adults. So we would just type in not adults. So that would, automatically exclude studies that mention adults in them. That would reduce the number a bit. So it's an iterative process. You try to find a balance between the scientific quality of the search strategy as well as the number of results that you can handle. And there's always a chance that you are going to lose some sort of some studies, even if you have 22,000 results or even if you have 5,000 results. Your search strategy might be so specific that you pick up all of the studies that have been published on that topic, even if you get 2,000 hits or 1,000 hits on PubMed. But there is also a chance that your search strategy was not good enough, and you got 2,000 results to screen, and still you get only 10 or 15 papers to work on, as opposed to a shorter search strategy that might have worked better. So it's an iterative process. And then we also keep this chart where we mention total number of records identified through database searching, additional records are identified through manual search, records after duplicates removed. In the screening process, how many records did we screen, how many records were excluded, full text articles assessed for eligibility, full text articles excluded with reasons. So you have to mention at the full text stage, that these are the reasons these articles were excluded from our review. And then studies included in the qualitative synthesis, and then studies included in the quantitative synthesis. So this is the Prisma chart that almost all of the journals require from the authors. So you have to provide your search strategy, you have to mention the databases that you have searched in, and then you have to show this Prisma flow chart that these were the number of studies that you started from for doing titles and abstract screening, and after full text screening, this was the number which was the basis of your qualitative and quantitative synthesis. So this exercise was just to show you the extent of iterative process that this search strategy development is, particularly when you are dealing with complex systematic reviews. So I think we will just end the tutorial here. And if you have any questions, you can ask it. And tomorrow we can go on to learning EndNote. EndNote's use in systematic reviews for citation management. We'll also learn about how to use Rayon Rayon software for title and abstract screening as a collaborative team. And we will also do a case study on PubMed as well as Web of Science. And we will run our search strategies on those databases as well, where we will see how we can restrict the search words to titles and abstracts to get the desirable number of articles or desirable number of references that we have to screen. Yes, Masuma?
Ahmed, maybe you will be covering this tomorrow, but I have a question that I've seen in your Excel file that you have written a number of articles in front of population, then outcomes. then intervention. So it means that when we are doing search, we will be using search words for the intervention only, and then write the number of articles, or we are going to mm, search the whole strategy with or and operators. So this I got confused when I saw the Excel sheets with the numbers written in front of every like Pico concepts.
Yeah. So you can adopt either strategies. You can either just copy paste the whole search strategy and run it on PubMed, or you can just do it turn by turn. Search for first concept, search for second concept, search for third concept, search for fourth concept. So what that would do is you would know that where you have to make the adjustment to get a good number of articles. So for example, if you run it separately, like I have mentioned, so you would know that which concept is more problematic. So for instance, if you're adding in, if your keywords or concept of depression is bringing in, or keyword of population is bringing in more hits, then you would know that you have to work on this part of the search strategy. You have to tailor it. Maybe you will have to remove a few words, or maybe you will restrict it to titles and abstracts only, or maybe to titles only. So this just makes the work of tailoring or tweaking the search strategy, just for tweaking it, which part to work on. If you run the whole search strategy, you would not know which part of the search strategy was problematic.
Oh, okay, thank you. That makes sense.
So that's all from my side for today. So tomorrow we will begin with the next database searching process. So, should we call it a day, Dr. Siam? Or if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask them now.
Yes, let's call it a day, and we can connect tomorrow, and we can cover any questions the fellows may have. So let's call it a day. Thanks, Ahmed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.